The M103 is a Tier 9 American heavy tank. It has a circumcised penis for a turret and as much actual armor as a typical female fantasy protagonist. It's also one of the game's best examples of power creep. Don't know what power creep is? Alright. Power creep is what happens when online games add new content to try to stay fresh and keep gameplay from becoming repetitive. This new content always has to be at least slightly different from previous content. When World of Tanks had its open beta on the 360, there were only two nations, Germany and America. Each tree had one line of each class that went to the top: Jaegeru and E3, GW E100 and T92, E100 and E5, E50M and M48. The only two Tier 9 heavies in the game were the borderline OP E75 and M103. Between the two, the E75 had a bigger gun and more armor, but was slower and clumsier, a more traditional heavy tank. Whereas the M103 was nimbler, had better gun handling, and more penetration. It also had better gun depression. It was a genuine threat to any tier it came up against, as the mediums it competed more closely with lacked the AP penetration to deal with some 9s and most 10s at the time. Okay, up until now, I forgot about the British tree, which was added late in the open beta. But it arrived so late that pretty much nobody got past the Black Prince before the game went live and all progress was reset. But the British tree included one major problem for the M103's position in the game: the Conqueror. At the time, it wasn't relevant because it was too similar to the M103 in most ways for people to give a flip. But several months ago, it received a buff to its turret armor. Now, the Conqueror is an objectively better tank. The M103 has been power crept. It's not the only tank to get that treatment either. The M48 Patton was a great tank at Tier 10. Until the T62A was introduced, anyway. But isn't this an M103 review? Yeah, it is. It's a not as good Conqueror. Yes, I know all the good players say the M103 is a good tank, but that's based on a rather loosely defined concept of good, which seems to mean anything that's usable. If you actually place this on a hierarchy of Tier 9 tanks based on how good they are, meaning how much potential lies in a tank in its ideal situation, it's on the lower half of Tier 9. But yes, the M103 is a still perfectly usable tank, provided you have the top gun, of course, as anything other than the last 120mm gun is garbage. Okay, so a half-upgraded M103 is still better than a half-upgraded E75 or T10, but we're not comparing half-upgraded tanks. Why have I spent this whole video talking about ideas and tanks other than the M103? Because there's just not much to say about it. I'm going to try to avoid the C word that is the British Tier 9 heavy for the rest of this video and just focus on the boring facts. The M103 has okay gun depression, some turret armor, not much, don't expect to bounce things, the uncanny ability to get track take ammo rack damage and lose its driver in a single shot. No, seriously, if you try corner fighting in the M103, people who will shoot you through your front drive wheel will track you and either kill your driver or damage your ammo rack. Maybe all three. It's an okay tank, and you can have some okay games in it, but it lacks any particular niche, other than being okay at most things it tries. And the tank that must not be named does all that better and can go hull down. It's just okay. And that's okay, because okay is good enough at Tier 9, especially when you've got an E5 lying ahead for you.